Hello, Game Boys and Game Girls. I'm the Game Boy Guru, and welcome to another pickups video. So, as with the last couple of months, I've decided to just kind of do the pickups all in one month, since, as I mentioned, I've slowed down somewhat, trying to get some bills paid, and also trying to not go nuts in terms of game hunting and just doing too much. So, I picked up a few things during the course of the month, so let's have a look. So, as I mentioned last month, I bought some game manuals and a couple of things from Lukey Games, and I found a few more things that I needed or that I wanted to add to the collection. So I bought the manual for Super Mario Bros. 2, Bionic Commando, Sky Shark, Star Soldier, and Captain Skyhawk, all NES manuals. And I scratched another shmup off the list, and that is Silkworm. This is one of those games that I actually remember being brutally difficult when I first played it and thinking, this is impossible. How could anybody ever get past this? Now, of course, I understand better how to do that sort of thing, but one of the cool mechanics in this game is that you can play as either the Jeep or the helicopter, and in a two-player game, you can play as both, even on the NES, which for a heavy action game like this wasn't always a thing. But I distinctly remember renting this with a friend and using his NES and his Game Genie to give us infinite lives so that we could blow through this game. That was a fun experience, and so I look forward to going back to this one because it's been so many years since I played it, and it's been forever since I've seen the arcade cabinet in the wild also. So yeah, this is one that I've got some fond memories of, both in the arcade and at home. So I will enjoy putting some time into that one. I stopped at one of the local pawn shops here a couple of weeks ago and picked up a few odds and ends. I got the greatest hits version of SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs, Fireteam Bravo on PSP. Got several of these. I think I've got the whole set now. This is one that I didn't have the greatest hits version of, so cool to grab that. I got Conflict Desert Storm for the original Xbox. I've had the PS2 version for a while now, but for some reason, whenever I see the Xbox version in the wild, it's either in really bad shape or it's incomplete. So was glad to find this one in both complete and in good shape. I've got the Platinum Hits version of Midnight Club 3 Dub Remix, or Dub Edition Remix on Xbox. And also Torino 2006 Olympic Games, which has multiple events, including luge and ski jumping. So that should be fun to mess with. And finally nabbed a copy of Dante's Inferno. Kind of been looking for a copy of this game on the cheap for a while. I'm a big fan of the God of War games on PS2, and by most accounts, this is kind of a continuation of that style of game, with that sort of dark aesthetic and, scary creatures and all that. So definitely will want to put some time into that. I also got a few things in the mail and finally got my first batch of Nintendo Switch releases from Limited Run Games. And so 2 of those arrived the other day. I got Saturday Morning RPG. I just bought the standard edition, which also came, of course, with the trading card. And I also got the game Slime-a-Son, Super Slime Edition. I bought the standard edition, of course, and that did also come with the trading card, as they all do. So glad to finally get those. I know they started shipping out some of the other ones toward the end of the week, so I'm expecting more that you'll be seeing probably next month. I ordered a couple of things off Amazon, one of which was a game, and it's another shmup. It is Death Smiles, limited edition. This is the big box, of course, that includes the Death Smiles themed faceplate that you see here on the back there. It also has an art book. No, it does not have an art book. It also has a premium arrange soundtrack CD. So I have not broken the plastic on this yet, although there's some plastic that was kind of torn anyway. But when I bought this off Amazon, it was still reasonably priced, and according to their stocking counter there, this was the last one. So I'm not sure if this will be restocked at all, but was glad to finally have this. I think there's a standard edition of this that's just the Xbox 360 game itself, but I was glad to grab this so that I had it complete and in good shape. And I think this is the last domestically released shoot 'em up on the 360 that I didn't already own, so cool to have that. I watched a playthrough of this on the official Cave Twitch channel, and was just totally blown away by how awesome it looked, so I knew I had to have it. I also finally got a couple of items in the mail that I've been kind of mentioning once or twice on the channel. I'm going to save those for last because they're awfully special. I did a little bit of hunting yesterday, picked up a handful of Atari cartridges, specifically Atari 2600 games, so we'll quickly blow through those. I got Q*bert, and this is the 1988 reprint, the red box games that was apparently previously owned by Beth. So thank you, Beth, for ruining this game, or, devaluing it some. I also got Speedway 2. And then this is one that I thought was probably a little bit less common, maybe. This is Pigs in Space, starring Miss Piggy. I've never seen this in the wild before, but I loved The Muppet Show, and Pigs in Space was always one of my favorite skits, and so cool to find that. I also got a game called Dark Cavern, which I was not familiar with, and a Spectravision game, which I'd never seen in the wild before, that is Gangster Alley. So some pretty cool finds there. This was apparently owned by someone named Blake. So thank you, Blake, for writing your name on that. I also scratched a couple of Game Boy games off the list, which also happened to be racing games. So I made sure to message my buddy Easy Racer and let him know that I found these, and they are F1 Pole Position, which I've heard about but had not played, and then also Fastest Lap, which I was not aware of, other than it being an entry in the list of North American releases. But apparently it's by VAP Games. So anyway, it'll be interesting. They're both F1 racing games, and so I think the F1 genre has quite a presence on the Game Boy between Fastest Lap, F1 Pole Position, and Nintendo's own F1 Race. So 2 more Game Boy games to scratch off the list. I also stopped by, here in this city, there is a Goodwill Electronics store. And so most of the video games tend to trickle that direction when there's stuff that is donated. So I scratched a couple of PSP games off the list, and also just kind of got a variety of games. So I've got EA Sports NASCAR, and also Hot Pixel by Atari. This is one I was aware of, had seen it in the wild a few times, but always either in poor condition or sans manual. So I was glad to find that in good shape and complete. This is one I've been wanting for a while on PS3. This is 3D Dot Game Heroes, which is kind of a Legend of Zelda-esque game that takes and kind of puts you in these large pixel block kind of environments, and it looks pretty cool. It's from Atlas and From Software, and so kind of looking forward to that. Finally snagged a copy of Resident Evil for the GameCube. Of course, this is the Player's Choice Edition, so it's the reprint, but it is one of the few double disc games on the system. So was really stoked to find that complete and in great shape. For the 360, I got Ninja Gaiden 2, and this is the slipcover version. And slipcover itself is a little beat up, as you might expect, a little bit of shelf wear and denting on around the edges and that, but otherwise it's in pretty good shape. And so I was happy to find that. And then also Tron Evolution. Big fan of the original Tron movie. Rewatched that again here recently. And Tron Legacy wasn't quite as good, but I still enjoyed it. And so, anything related to the Tron universe, I can definitely, give some time to. Also, for the original Xbox, I got Heroes of the Pacific. Not one that I was overly familiar with, but it looks like a cool kind of dogfighting game, and it says it supports 480p. And so since I have my Xbox hooked up via component cables, that'll look reasonably sharp on modern TV. A couple of PS2 games. I got Maximo Ghosts to Glory. Had a bit of a conversation with the clerk who was familiar with the game because he said it was one of the first PS2 games he ever bought. And he said, other than a few people, who would ever buy this game just based on the name Maximo? I said, well, it's kind of loosely tied to the Ghosts and Goblins universe. And he said, but for people that don't know that, how would they know, or how would they, know that they want to buy that game just based on the name? And that's one of those where I think the cover art really speaks to that. And of course, by that point, you could easily rent a lot of these games and then look on the back to see the screenshots and, make a decision. This was also a pleasant surprise in the wild, which was Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King. And this is pretty cool that I was able to find this in the wild randomly at Goodwill, especially for the price that I paid. And of course, this is 2 discs because it comes with the game and a demo for Final Fantasy XII. And so I think this completes my Final Fantasy XII collection because I have the demo, I have the standard release, and I have the steelbook. But was very happy to see this complete and in rather good shape. I also picked up a couple of PlayStation Longbox games, which are starting to become a bit more of a rarity in the wild, especially ones that are not completely beat up and destroyed. So the first one I got is Twisted Metal, and as I mentioned to the clerk there at that same store, this is actually one of the first PlayStation games I ever played. The first time I ever actually played a PlayStation was in college, and the RA, or kind of the student assistant there on my floor, had a PlayStation, and he had Twisted Metal, and he also had Mortal Kombat Trilogy. And so I played those 2 games briefly on his PlayStation, and was pretty blown away by it. I'm not a big fan of racing games, but at the time, with my first experience with real 3D graphics on a console, I was pretty amazed by it. Of course, I couldn't afford a PlayStation at the time, so it would be another I think 2 or 2.5 years before I actually got a PlayStation, and by then the impact of this had kind of dulled a little bit. But it was cool to find this complete, especially because not only did it come with the disc and the foam and the manual, of course, but it also had this little sheet of cheat codes, which I absolutely love because this is history. This is somebody who played and enjoyed this game and you know, got a lot of fun out of it. And so I love finding stuff like this. I know I've mentioned that before, but I'll keep saying it because I just love finding this stuff in the wild, because it's just so much fun to see this kind of stuff when it presents itself. I also found a copy of Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams. I don't know where the Warrior's Dreams subtitle comes from, but again, this is in pretty good shape. It does have disc and manual. Does not have the foam, but it's in reasonably good shape. I know that the PlayStation version of a lot of these games kind of takes a lot of heat because they often have missing animations and can be a little bit choppy compared to the Saturn ports, which are more or less arcade perfect. But this is still kind of a neat one to have. Again, because of what I paid and because of the fact that it's just, I like the long box games. And this is one that I think would be fun to mess with. So those are all the finds. A couple more items I got in the mail that I've been talking about are the 2 collector's edition releases from Castlemania Games, Holy Diver and the combo of R-Type, Super R-Type and R-Type 3, the Third Lightning. So let me go over these real quick. I'll show you the Holy Diver set first. So they're really nice boxes that this all comes in. Got a Castlemania sticker. This little warning here that says, cartridge not working on your PAL NES, press reset twice while the power is on. And mentions a couple things. That was on the outer packaging, along with the UPC, which I cut out because I'm a nerd, and also this little guy, which kind of shows the contents of the package. I love stuff like this, so I always have to keep those things if I can. And then inside the box, we have the actual game box for Holy Diver. Yes, they printed and manufactured a full NES game box with art and with description and screenshots and UPC on the back, which is absolutely fantastic. Inside, of course, one of the things I really like is instead of a styrofoam insert, they did this little plastic spacer, which is a cool idea. And there is, of course, the, get all of it up here, the manual, which is pretty cool because it's got the artwork. It's got IREM and Retrobit logos on there, and on the back with a little player sprite. It is full color, which I'll show you here. There's a page with some different enemies and power-ups and things like that. So very cool. And since I pre-ordered at the right time, I was lucky enough to get the white cartridge variant instead of the dark, I think a dark gray or black cartridge. So this is limited. And it does come with a dust sleeve, so that was really nice to see. that it was included with that. In addition, there's also this other cool deal here. This kind of, I'm not even sure what you call this. The Holy Grail is what it says. And here at the bottom it says, take it easy, start plus B and A. I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm guessing that's a cheat code of some kind to maybe make the game easier or give you a leg up somehow. So that's kind of a neat little nod there. On the back of this thing is this little case, which has this large pin of your actual character sprite, this fig pin of Randy is the guy's name. And pretty cool little package. I'm probably going to leave this closed and maybe just put it up on the shelf or what have you, but neat item. This also, if I flip this over and pull off the top portion, has an envelope of contents, which I'll show you here briefly. It has a cool notebook that has the logo and stuff on there, and it is just a notebook. It's you pull out the deal here, and it's just pages in a notebook, but it does have the Holy Diver logo on there, and you know, it's just lined paper, but it's a neat item nonetheless. I'll probably never write in it because I want to make sure that I keep the value of this thing high, but it is a neat item nonetheless. And then also there is one additional pin with the Holy Diver logo and emblem there. So a really neat package full of cool stuff. Oh, that's right. I need to show you all the envelope. So this is the power-ups, it says. And I've added a couple of things in here that were just loose in the box before. But I've got my Holy Diver Collector's Edition Certificate of Authenticity, 2078 of 2900. And so that is that. And then I also got this Certificate of Authenticity because I was among the first, they selected me to receive one of the first 1,000 collector's editions that they printed. So I have 685 of 1,000. I'm assuming that's 1,000 of the white NES carts. So cool to have those certificates of authenticity. There's these cool art cards that have art inspired by the game. Again, some really cool pieces here. And then some stickers. Of course, there's Randy and this kind of mother brain looking enemy sprite there. And then also some logo and emblem stuff there. So all very cool. A really awesome piece for the collection. Something that I'm really going to enjoy having on the shelf. And, of course, something I'm going to enjoy playing because the game is playable across all iterations of the NES. Of course, the game was originally released in Japan on the Famicom, so it's probably available in Japan, even though I think maybe it goes for a little bit more money, but still a really cool item nonetheless. So that's Holy Diver. Now, let's move on to the other set, which is the R-Type 3 and Super R-Type set. Once again, a really nice outer box that this comes in, with kind of foil or sparkling stars on there. It was a nice touch to include that. So right away in the box, there's the Super R-Type and R-Type 3 Super NES box. Once again, custom done with screenshots and descriptions there on the back. IRAM and Retrobit logos there for easy identification. So I can put this on the shelf with my other complete, my 3 other complete Super NES games that I have, if I want to do that, and then have the rest on display. Of course, as with the other set, I cut out the UPC and the other deal on the outside plastic because I'm a nerd, but that's okay because I enjoy it. And oh, there's kind of a neat thing on the back of the box here. It says Next Level Start and has the R9 there. I believe that's the R9 Lightning from R-Type 3. So it has this R-Type loadouts deal covering there. There is, of course, another envelope, which I'll show you here in a moment, that has, of course, the R9 on there. Once again, there is a notebook, and I'll open that briefly so you can see a really nice design on the front with 2 game names and the Next Level Start on the back as well. And once again, just line paper with logos there on the pages. So again, I probably won't write in it. I want to leave the value of this thing high to make sure that if I ever had to resell it for some reason, not that I ever plan to, but if I ever found myself in a dire financial position and had to unload it, I could get maximum value for it. But then in the envelope here, you've got the logos on the back. And again, I put my certificates of authenticity in here. So I've got my limited production 2,423 of 2,900. And again, first 1,000 club. This is 450 of 1,000. I don't have the cartridge here to show you because it's in my Super NES right now because I've been playing R-Type 3. But it is a blue cartridge. It looks cool. And so maybe I'll show that off later. But there are some cool art cards based on the R-Type anime that was actually done by Paul Odaking 77077 Johnson. And so that's of course on the back here, but cool art cards. I need to go watch that anime because these cards and the art on these is absolutely amazing. Just take a look at the Dobkeratops, the orange enemy there, the famous R-Type boss. It looks really cool and scary. And there's another one with R9 going up against the Dobkeratops. Very cool. So I'm going to have to watch that. It's on YouTube. And so I'm going to have to check that out. But again, some cool stickers. Got the R9 in various configurations there with the Force Pod and some logo stickers. And then also some other really cool bits there, logos and R9. So all very cool. And that's the envelope. And then I will show you here just briefly, even though I don't have the cartridge here, I'll show you in the box. There's a nice plastic tray where the cartridge would be. And once again, manual, full color, pretty cool stuff. And of course it shows a Retrobit controller there that I think is for the Retrobit clone console or whatever that they do, which helps them to avoid copyright issues, I'm sure, or licensing issues, to make sure that they're not depicting a Super NES controller, since this re-release is licensed by Irem, but I don't think the re-release is technically licensed by Nintendo. So I'm assuming that's just a legal precaution. And then finally here is a pair of R-Type pins. The R-Type Returns is kind of the name of this compilation. And so it's got the R9 there, and then of course the R9 with the Force Pod, the classic Force Pod. So all very cool, very neat items. Definitely something that I'm glad I pre-ordered when I did, because I probably would have missed out, and I would have been very sad and disappointed for not having picked these up, because these are fantastic. And of course, the $60 pre-order price for this package is far less than what you'll pay street price for R-Type 3, the Third Lightning, in terms of the official original release, cartridge only. And to have this whole package is pretty awesome, so I'm very happy with it. That's all I have to show you today. Again, I'll have another video next month where I know I'll have some more limited run, or should have some more limited run stuff to show you, along with hopefully a few other odds and ends that I've ordered over the past few months, pre-orders and that sort of thing. And who knows, maybe I'll get lucky and score a few things out on another hunt here in the next few weeks. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you like this video. Let me know you want more content like this going forward. Also, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you subscribe and be able to share more videos like this with you. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at GameBoyGuru. I'll have a link in the description below to my blog where you can read my Game Boy game reviews. Those are the ones that I base my dramatic reading series of videos on. And so make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you check out Nira and his channel. I'll have a link to that in the description below. He provided the Super Mario Land overworld music that I use as the intro for all my videos, and he's got a bunch of other great chiptune and game music covers as well, so make sure you go check those out. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.